From there, you now start writing some few important questions. The first thing that we are going to write, what is meant by, first question, what is meant by ultrafiltration? Right. First, what is meant by ultrafiltration? What is ultrafiltration is a 1 to 2 mark question that you have to remember. Write down. What is ultrafiltration? Filtration of blood, answer. Filtration of blood. What is ultrafiltration? Filtration of blood at a very high pressure. Filtration of blood at a very high pressure. In the glomerular capillaries. In the glomerular capillaries. Filtration of blood at a very high pressure in the glomerular capillaries. Is known as ultrafiltration. Is known as ultrafiltration. Next question. Where does ultrafiltration take place and what is formed? Where does ultrafiltration take place and what is formed after the process? Where does ultrafiltration take place
and
what is formed after the process? Answer. After the process. What is formed after the process? Answer. Ultrafiltration takes place in the glomerular capillaries. Ultrafiltration takes place in the glomerular capillaries. Full stop. This next paragraph. This process results in the leaking out of plasma. Leaking out of plasma with large amount of water, salts, glucose, large amount of water, salts, glucose and proteins and few proteins. Okay? Full stop. Next line, the last line. This fluid is known as the glomerular filtrate. This fluid is known as the glomerular filtrate. This fluid is known as the glomerular filtrate, which collects in the Bowman's capsule. Okay. So let us start again. Try understanding the three processes. So first I again mentioned what is ultrafiltration. You have written down this answer now. What is ultrafiltration? Ultrafiltration takes place in the glomerular capillaries. What does ultrafiltration release? Ultrafiltration releases a large amount of water, glucose, sodium. That is the plasma majorly, but the plasma is extremely dilute, huge amount of water coming out, and all starts collecting in the inner hollow of the Bowman's capsule first, and then starts seeping in. It is now inside the tubule. So this glomerular filtrate and the surrounding blood capillary. Now I try comparing the first part of the tubule, that is the proximal tubule. Now I start comparing the first part of the tubule, that is the proximal tubule, and the surrounding blood capillary, and find out, is there any process happening? Is there any movement of the iron, salts, anything happening? Because here the blood is thick. Here the blood has got less water, and here in the tubule there is so much of water. So definitely the water should be moving from the tubule towards the blood. Yes, this is what happens, and slowly now the water is constantly moving towards the blood capillary. Which capillaries? The capillaries which are formed by the division of the efferent arteriole. Capillaries which are formed by the division of the efferent arteriole. So I want to see one such capillary like this and try comparing what is happening with the PCT and the nearby capillary. The blood in the capillary, which was very thick, now regains its water slowly. A process known as diffusion is happening. Why? Because the surrounding tubule, that is the PCT, has more of water, so the water moving towards the blood capillary. The surrounding tubule has more of glucose, so small amount of glucose also moving into the blood here. The surrounding tubule has more of sodium, so small amount of sodium also will start moving. Because when we were talking about the glomerular filtrate, the composition of the glomerular filtrate, if you check, what is the composition? Huge amount of water, sodium, glucose, but none of them are waste substances actually. Are these toxic waste substances of the body? No, they are nothing. None of them are toxic waste substances of the body. But then, what is the objective of ultrafiltration then? The objective of ultrafiltration is to circulate the amount of the fluid, because I would say by the process of ultrafiltration, this liquid starts collecting and then flowing, but no traces of urea, and if at all there are also few molecules only at times. Urea, uric acid, ammonia, nothing, no poisonous toxic substances are there in the glomerular filtrate. All still in the blood, all still in the blood. So this filtrate, which has so much of water, starts going back to the blood. What is the need? What is the need now? And what is this process known as? This process is known as selective reabsorption. So when I talk about what is the meaning of selective reabsorption then? What is the meaning of selective reabsorption? I would say selective reabsorption is the diffusion of all the essential substances from the tubule of the kidney to the nearby blood vessel. What process? Selective reabsorption is nothing but diffusion. Which process are we talking about? Physiologically, कौन सा process हो रहा है यहाँ पे? It is simple mere diffusion is happening where all these molecules, since in the filtrate they are in a very high concentration and in the blood much lesser, they are constantly moving towards the blood. So what is the concept? What is the need for selective reabsorption then? The need for selective reabsorption is, ये जो blood था, this blood was very thick. And if in our body, just before the break also I was mentioning, in our body, if the blood is thicker and remains thick for a particular period of time, agar 15-20 minutes tak bhi, if the blood is thicker, it is dangerous, because the blood, the moment it is thick, the flow of the blood becomes very, very slow. And if the flow of the blood is slow, are the tissues and the cells getting adequate oxygen and nutrients? Nothing. Now slowly the tissue cells, the liver and the pancreas and the other vital parts of the body, say suppose a heart, the vital parts of the body slowly they will start showing some abrupt irregular functions. So this blood cannot remain thick for a long time. So this glucose moving back, the water, maximum amount of water moving back, the sodium moving back. Glucose and sodium has got a major role to play when we are talking about the function of the heart and the neurons, the nerves actually. So right now we try to understand what is this process when a large amount of substances move from the tubule to the blood, a process known as selective reabsorption. Basically, what is it? It is basically diffusion. And why the need? Why the need of selective reabsorption? To maintain the volume and the concentration of the blood. Why the need of selective reabsorption? Why should this process happen? Immediately this process should happen because the volume of the blood again has to be restored back. अब जो blood thick हो चुका है, maybe now from 6 ml now the amount of the blood is just 4 ml or 4.5 ml or maybe 3 ml, which is very, very dangerous. And this much of the blood and this much of the fluid our body will never throw out. If this much of the water and salts and ions our body is throwing out by the way of the kidney and urethra, immediately the body will start collapsing. So our body is made in such a way, not a problem. So much of the water is given here. Immediately that water and the glucose and the salts, everything will be given back to the blood. You will get questions. What is the significance of selective reabsorption? ये process का जरूरत क्यों है? So that the volume and the constitution and the entire composition, the constituents of the blood should not be lost out. So basic, simple, you are supposed to write to maintain the volume and the concentration of the blood again. Okay, let us go to the next part. So now that the fluid has come down here in the loop of Henle, which part am I talking about now? Now I am talking about यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? I want to understand capillaries or loop of Henle के बीच. Is there anything still happening? Yes, when the filtrate has come down to the loop of Henle, still there is so much of water left. We are talking about 90% of the water filtrate में आ चुका था. So still there is so much of water left, some small amount of sodium still left. The loop of Henle plays a very important role for the reabsorption of water. That's a major function that the loop of Henle shows. Reabsorption of water is a major function of the loop of Henle. So ये जो narrow, long, U-shaped tube है, all throughout the tube, the reabsorption of the water takes place. So major two parts of the tubule where the reabsorption of water is taking place, PCT and loop of Henle. So by the time the filtrate has come down till here, for an example, by the time the filtrate has come down here, it has almost given back its 90% में से of this whatever amount of water it has, almost 90% of the water it has given back again. मतलब यहाँ पे अभी सिर्फ 5 to 10% water ही बचा है. What is just required to dissolve the waste? And the rest should all go back to the blood. So a large amount of water goes back. A large amount of water goes back. What is this process known as? Diffusion. Movement of the water from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. What is this process? Diffusion. What is the specific phase of urine formation we are talking about? ये भी selective reabsorption है. So name two parts of the nephron where selective reabsorption takes place. What is your answer? The PCT and the loop of Henle. But I mentioned तुम्हारे textbook में PCT loop of Henle mentioned नहीं है. So if you remember, कहाँ पे text में? No, volume में we have given extra. क्योंकि NCERT textbook में it's not mentioned, but it is always to be understood this way. But maybe in your school you will come across your teachers may not use these words, or else in certain schools they do teach. अगर नहीं है, then you use those terms, not a problem. Marks deduct कभी नहीं होता है. But in case you forget those terms, then you should write in the upper parts of the nephron. In the upper parts of the nephron. So in the first region of the nephron, in the first major part of the nephron, में selective reabsorption होता है. And now we are going to talk about secretion. Okay. So for the process of selective reabsorption, what did we understand? By the process of selective reabsorption, the tubule has given back a huge amount of water, sodium, glucose, all essential salts back to the blood. Now the blood has a large amount of water back. Now the blood has a large amount of sodium, glucose, etc. लगभग अभी धीरे-धीरे blood का concentration and volume restore हो रहा है. So by the time I talk about till here, till the end of the loop of Hadley, yes, selective reabsorption is all done. The concentration and the volume of the blood is लगभग restored now. Then what is the significance of the last part, the DCT? Now I try understanding that now I want to compare the DCT and the surrounding blood vessel. Abhi blood के components क्या है? Till now I did not talk about the movement of the urea. क्योंकि blood में अभी भी यूरिया बहुत है, blood में अभी भी यूरिक एसिड बहुत है, blood में अभी भी पोटेशियम आयंस बहुत है, blood में अभी भी बहुत सारा poisonous chemical substances है. These are known as drugs. When you write drugs, drugs यहाँ पे cocaine, morphine नहीं है. Here we are talking about any preservative that comes in our body along with food. इसको भी drugs के category में माना जाता है. Any type of medicine that we take, out of those medicines, in those medicines you will come across there is only one chemical component जो हमारे body cells के लिए actually effective हो रहा है for treating any infection. But along with that one chemical component और चार है because it's a chemical composition. एक chemical component से कभी भी medicine नहीं बनता है. So all those unwanted chemical components which are entering our body every day with the help of, by the way of so many different type of food items that you take. Today if you are consuming one packet of juice, उसमें भी preservative जा रहा है. There also some chemical substances are there. You are consuming some chips or etc. packaged food. If any you take all throughout the day, never mind you are not taking any medicine. Is it possible that on one single day we are not consuming any extra chemical substances? No, we do consume because kabhi na kabhi some packaged food we must have consumed. So these chemical substances are toxic for our body. They are poisonous for our body. So all these are actually considered as drugs. So now I compare the blood surrounding the DCT. ये जो blood है, इसमें अभी भी यूरिया ज़्यादा है, यूरिक एसिड ज़्यादा है, पोटेशियम आयंस बहुत ज़्यादा है, ज़्यादा पोटेशियम आयंस हमारे बॉडी के लिए अच्छा नहीं है. So potassium ions, ammonia, creatinine you must have come across. So all these chemical components अभी भी blood में ज़्यादा है. They have to be thrown क्योंकि अब तक we are approaching the collecting duct. The nephron is almost getting over. So यहाँ पे now when I compare, is this fluid having uric acid? ये जो fluid Bowman's capsule glomerulus से आ रहा है, flow vein, is this fluid having urea? No, but the surrounding blood vessel has a whole lot of urea. Since the surrounding blood vessel has a whole lot of urea, the urea will start moving towards the tubule. Which part? DCT. But again, what about here? ये जो blood यहाँ से flow हो रहा है, is this blood having high urea? Yes. तो यहाँ पे why did not I explain that the urea is moving from here to the PCT? No, यहाँ पे the membrane of the PCT does not allow movement of urea. यहाँ पे जो blood था, was urea concentration high here also? हाँ, urea concentration तो यहाँ पे भी ज़्यादा था. Then why for loop of Henle I did not explain you this? Because the membranes of the loop of Henle does not allow movement of urea. Do you still remember the concept of permeability? What is the meaning of permeability? Allow the passage. Permeability of a membrane, whenever we study, permeability of it means allow the passage. So I am saying, why suddenly now I am talking about urea concentration ज़्यादा? यहाँ पे भी तो urea concentration ज़्यादा है in this blood, because it is the same blood which is passing through. तो यहाँ पे जो urea है, why did not I say that urea is passing from here to here? No, the PCT का जो membrane है, the membrane of PCT is not permeable to urea, uric acid, potassium ions. membrane of LH जो है, it does not allow the passage, is not permeable to urea uric acid. अब जो membrane of DCT I am talking about, that only allows the passage of urea uric acid. That is the reason we are talking about an exchange of these substances in the last part. So now urea is in the DCT, uric acid is more coming towards the DCT, all the potassium ions and the drugs are coming more into the DCT. Is the concentration of urea uric acid becoming lesser now in the blood and more here? Yes. So all the concentrations of urea and uric acid and the potassium ions and the drugs all becoming more here and less now here. What has happened? Diffusion, movement of all these chemical components from a region of high to a region of low. So if this is what is happening, that the movement of the substances are happening from the blood towards the tubule, this is what we talk about as tubular secretion. This is the third part that we are talking about. So tubular secretion and reabsorption में, what is the difference now that you have understood? ये था reabsorption. यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा था? ये था reabsorption. Reabsorption, what is the movement of the molecules?
From the
tubule.
tubules to the blood vessels.
From the tubule towards the blood vessel. Secretion में, what is the movement of the molecules?
From the blood vessels
towards the tubule. Is this clear? So now that I talk about that, if it is reabsorption, for reabsorption all the essential substances from the tubule move towards the blood vessel. Why is it necessary? So that the blood composition and the volume can be maintained back. What is secretion? Secretion means all the poisonous chemical components are moving from the blood towards the tubule. Why is this necessary? So that the blood can be rid, or the blood can be rid of all the unwanted toxic chemical components. Now if I talk about the DCT, what is next? After the DCT, which part are we talking about? After the DCT, we are talking about in the DCT now. Now let us summarize. In the DCT, what is the composition of what is the composition of the fluid in the DCT, or from the DCT, if I consider from the DCT, the fluid is going to the collecting duct. What is the composition of the fluid? The composition of the fluid is a small amount of water. What is a very high concentration of urea, and then uric acid, and then so many other different type of nitrogenous components are there, the ammonium salts and creatinine, all these are also there. And then next is we talk about the potassium ions, and then we talk about some poisonous drugs, etc. All this is what is the composition of the fluid which has run down into the collecting duct. Can we say now that this is the urine? Yes, this is the urine now. So DCT say when the fluid is moving down into the collecting duct, its composition has changed all over. So PCT में composition was more of water, more of sodium, more of glucose. Urea hardly कुछ था, uric acid भी कुछ नहीं था. But all these essential components were sent to the blood. And blood में से all the essential substances were picked up. Where? In the DCT. All the essential substances picked up. अब धीरे धीरे composition of the fluid is changing. And this is what is the forming urine. This is what is the forming urine. And now I say that now that the fluid is in the collecting duct, what is the composition? The composition is a small amount of water which is just necessary for dissolving all these waste substances. Can we say that this fluid, that is the urine, is concentrated? Yes, that's the reason we say the urine is concentrated. And what is the reason? It is understood that the urine is concentrated because it does not have a huge amount of water like this. It has got only a small amount of water to dissolve all these substances. The color the color is slightly yellow. The color is slightly yellow, very faint yellow, because of a specific type of a pigment present in it. Now, talking about the water content. Let me go to the concept of the water content here. Now that I talk about that, if the amount of the water content is more in the urine, here you have to learn this. The same thing again in chemical coordination you will come across. Now that if a person has still a very high content of water in the urine, which is not normal. So let us talk about two things. In the urine, water should be less, but I am talking about a condition where the water content is very high. In the urine, should there be high content of glucose? No, there should not be a very high concentration of glucose. So again, here also I am talking about two concentrations, two components. I am talking about two different type of a condition. Now let us talk about two conditions. What are the two conditions? Let us try understanding. The two conditions where number one, concentration of water is high in the urine. Concentration of water is high in the urine. What is this condition known as? This is an abnormal condition that we are talking about, and this condition is known as diabetes. This is also another type of a diabetes known as diabetes insipidus. You will come across this later. This is because of deficiency of a hormone known as ADH. ADH. What does this ADH stand for? ADH stands for antidiuretic hormone. Right now, I'm not talking about the source and the functions. You're going to study later. As of now, you'll have to remember, if at all we come across in a person in the urine where the water content should be less, but it is more, the urine is too dilute, the process of the frequency of urination is too much, then what is that condition known as diabetes insipidus, जो एक deficiency of hormone की वजह से होता है. What is the name of that hormone? Antidiuretic hormone. So then what is this antidiuretic hormone actually doing in our body? This antidiuretic hormone is actually bringing about the reabsorption of the water. So इस individual के body में क्या problem हो रहा है? In this individual, since ADH is less, ये जो water going back to the blood, ये वाला process नहीं हो रहा है ज़्यादा. In every normal individual, ये यहाँ से whatever amount of the water. What did I tell you? Let me again give you one more idea, one more concept. What did I tell you? Almost about 160 to 180 liters of glomerular filtrate is formed per day. After all these processes, now that I talk about the amount of urine in the collecting duct, how much of the urine generally a normal healthy individual would be releasing out? At the most 1.5 to 3 liters, nothing more than that under normal condition. Under normal condition, 1.5 to 3 liters maximally. So 3 liters of urine, so can you understand 160 and 3 liters? How much of the water has to go back? Reabsorption, almost 98% of the fluid reabsorb ho jata hai. Right now we are only talking about if the concentration of water in an individual in the urine is too much. The amount of the urine lost from the body is almost about 5 to 7 liters. What is that condition known as? That condition is known as diabetes insipidus. What is the second? Concentration of glucose is high. If the concentration of glucose is high, then what is this condition known as? This condition is known as diabetes mellitus. Okay. This again, in the next chapter, coordination also you are going to study in detail. Let me just talk about this with reference to this one. This I just spoke about. Later you will understand this with reference to insulin. But with this chapter, this you will be asked. What is the job of ADH? How is the ADH helpful? Adequate amount of ADH हमारे body के लिए regular, हमारे body के लिए essential है. Yes, because it regulates the volume of the urine. ADH deficiency है, then what will happen? So much of water is lost from the body. ADH, adequate amount here in the body, then maximum amount of water will go back to the blood, keeping the blood fluid state, keeping the blood in a flowing state every time. Composition of the blood will be maintained. So what would happen to a person who is suffering from this condition? This person will always have a frequent tendency for urination. So much of the water lost from the body. The blood is comparatively thick every time. And since the blood is getting thick, the person is constantly drinking water also. So all these are the irregular behavior that you come across in an individual, if at all. So this is what we understand. Now, what are the three steps? What is the difference between selective reabsorption and secretion? You are supposed to understand. First, you try telling me, if I talk about reabsorption and secretion, can you tell me one major difference that you have understood? If you have understood, you should be able to tell. Otherwise, पूछो जो clear नहीं है. See all the three steps. Is it clear? कुछ है basic concept जो बिल्कुल नहीं समझ में आया.
मैम ये वाला कॉन्सेप्ट आप वापस से
कौन सा? ये वाला. This I told only. This I mentioned only about two abnormal conditions. ये process नहीं है. These are the two conditions. मतलब talking about the composition of the urine. तो urine का जो composition है in the collecting duct ये होना चाहिए. Urine का जो composition है in the collecting duct ये होना चाहिए. Water ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. Glucose होता है, but glucose concentration should be traces. In a normal individual, does the urine contain glucose? हाँ. Sodium, glucose सब होता है, but in traces. The moment I talk about an individual जिनका glucose concentration very high है, this is this one, diabetes mellitus. ये abnormal condition. You go and sit that side. वहाँ पे AC नहीं. Both of you go and sit that side. I don't know AC. हाँ? I don't have any problem. This is a problem नहीं है. इधर बैठो ना. Clear है? So I said if the urine has high concentration of glucose, then ये condition a person could suffer, जो abnormal है. If the urine has too much of water, जो abnormal है, then the person is known to suffer from this condition. These two are abnormal conditions, जो kidney के साथ related है. Clear? अब now I'm not talking much about this hormones and what the reason again you will study. But with this reference, with this chapter, with this part, ये अभी जानना जरूरी है. So I said the urine will have this much. This is the composition. What is the normal amount? Generally 1.5, 2 liters, 3 liters maximum. Even if a person drinks a whole lot of water means what? How much of the water also should be drink? Should we drink 5 liters, 6 liters of water? It is not only. In a day, how much of the water we should drink? Huh? No.
6 liters.
6 liters. No.
8
8 to 10 glasses, meaning 2 to 2.5 liters. उससे ज़्यादा नहीं, maximum 3 liters. उससे ज़्यादा बिल्कुल भी नहीं. It is not a concept that the more we drink, the more our body is flushed out. No, the kidneys cannot take that much of pressure. So if a person is drinking 8 liters of water, possible है? Can a person drink? हाँ, हो सकता है. Not a problem. The entire day he or she is just drinking water. But not a problem. But the problem is what? Instead of getting cleaned up, the kidneys will start functioning abruptly abnormal. Because the kidneys will not, because these are minute tubes. They are huge. A lot of pressure of the blood, a lot of pressure of these fluids will start damaging these tubes. So tubes damage ho jayega in just reverse. So now that we are talking about how much of the water should be drained, maximum 3 liters. Under normal conditions, how much of the urine does a healthy normal individual release? Maximum 2 liters, 2.5 liters. Under extreme conditions, 3 liters. उससे ज़्यादा कभी नहीं होता. So if I talk about 5 liters and 6 liters and 7 liters of urine, yes, that is always a abnormal condition seen in person suffering from diabetes. So ये जो दो तरह के diabetes है, as I mentioned, नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में फिर से सीखना है, but as of now just remember this one. Okay. Now I asked you what? I asked you, तो अभी जो ये पूरा स्टोरी में से, हाँ ये वाला, I said if I talk about the PCT and the GCT, I am comparing the PCT and the blood capillary first. तो PCT में what did I say? ये था normal composition of the fluid. बहुत सारा water है, glucose है, sodium है, water is so much, पूरा dilute fluid है. Surrounding in the blood capillary, what did I say? In the surrounding of the blood capillary, the blood was thick. Water content is very less. Glucose भी traces है, sodium भी traces है. So where is glucose more here? So definitely from where to where the glucose will go? The glucose will always move from here to here. Sodium कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है? यहाँ पे. Tubule में sodium is more. Nearby blood में sodium is less. So what will be the direction of the movement of sodium? यहाँ से यहाँ तक. Yes. Where is water more? Here huge amount of water. यहाँ पे water बहुत कम है. So definitely the water will move from the tubule to the blood. So जब तक ये process हो रहा है, little by little the blood is gaining back its composition again. जो blood thick था, now is gaining back its composition again. Now the fluid runs down to the LH. Now that the fluid runs down to the LH, what's happening? LH में the fluid still has a huge amount of water. अभी भी बहुत water बाकी है. So reabsorption of water continued है still now. Reabsorption of the water is still continuing. So by the time the fluid has come down to the LH, what has happened? यहाँ पे now I see the blood. Yes, the blood has gained back a lot of water. The blood has gained back a lot of sodium, glucose. मतलब लगभग blood का composition अभी restore हो रहा है. But एक चीज जो still has not happened is the filtration of the urea, uric acid. Blood का composition, volume of the water, salt, ये सब तो restore हो रहा है. But blood में अभी भी यूरिया, यूरिक एसिड, पोटेशियम अभी भी बहुत हाई है. But any blood capillary and surrounding DCT जब हम देखते हैं, always we come across the blood gives away urea to the DCT, gives away potassium to the DCT, gives away drugs and poisons to the DCT. क्यों? Because the membrane of the DCT is allowing the transport of these molecules possible. A concept known as coloniality. And that is the reason I told you I did not talk about the movement of the urea, uric acid यहाँ से यहाँ, यहाँ से यहाँ, because all these membranes of PCT and Lupo family does not allow the movement of urea, uric acid, creatinine. ये सारे molecules penetrate नहीं कर सकता. It is only in the DCT we get to see that suddenly the composition of the fluid changes. And so much of water, salt, everything given back, and this fluid has a whole lot of urea, uric acid, potassium, drugs. So this is what is known as the forming urine. मतलब urine में जैसे ही nitrogenous content बढ़ने लगता है और ये fluid में जैसे ही nitrogenous content बढ़ने लगेगा, now this will be considered as urine. So यहाँ से DCT से fluid कहाँ पे जाएगा? Collecting duct. So the fluid in the collecting duct will have a composition लगभग this way. Little bit of water, whole lot of solutes, whole lot of salts and urea and uric acid, etc., etc. Water content कम है. That's the reason the urine is known to be concentrated. Yeah. Now, I asked you. So basic समझ में क्या आया? What is reabsorption and secretion? Reabsorption and secretion में difference क्या समझ में आया? If it is reabsorption, essential substances are moving from tubule to the blood. And if it is secretion, toxic poisonous substances are moving from blood to the tubes. Process वही same है, diffusion. Why is reabsorption necessary? So that the blood volume and composition concentration is maintained. आया समझ में? So what are the three main steps in the process of urine formation? three main steps are ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and secretion. Sometimes in the entire kidney tubule we come across some deposition of, maybe because of irregular food habits, intake of water, etc. etc. ये जो uric acid and uric acid, they cannot flush out into the DCT in large amounts. And the kidney tubule may have a deposition of this uric acid, etc. in different regions of the kidney. That condition will be known as the kidney stones. That type of a condition would be known as kidney stones. What is kidney stones? Kidney stones refer to small deposits of uric acid, etc., etc. in different regions of the kidney. That can be in the cortex and the medulla and the urinary bladder, in the ureter, kahin pe bhi ho sakta hai. Because why did that happen? Because this process of secretion did not happen properly. This may happen to people, different conditions, different reasons are there, but most common, people who have excessive protein intake, इसके लिए भी होता है. Irregular water drinking habits, इसके लिए भी हो सकता है. So when we are talking about this kidney stones, there are different type of treatments that we are talking about. So this is one small concept that you have. The last is, what would happen to a person if the kidneys are not working? If the kidneys are not working, then kidneys are not working. Today we come across conditions where people would show different fractions of the kidney not working. Matlab, I am talking about a concept known as dialysis or hemodialysis. All of you must have come across this word dialysis. What is dialysis? It is a process by which the blood is filtered artificially when the kidneys are not working. But now, if I talk about 15-20 years back, the concept of dialysis was only for a bedridden person, only for a person where जहाँ पे काफी सारे organs अभी almost not functional and the person has been asked for dialysis 20-30 years back. But today the concept is not like that. Today, even a person, you'll be surprised to see a person who is normally attending school, college, office, and maybe that person goes for dialysis once a month, 15 days. So then what is the concept of dialysis now? If at all the kidneys are not working, maybe 50% or one particular kidney not functional, can a person survive with one kidney? Yes.
Because
so
people even sell one kidney.
Because
people can donate one kidney.
Yes. So now that I talk about that, in various type of conditions, it is seen that a person's one kidney not functional and the other may be functional only 60%, 70%. Then also the person may be asked for dialysis. A person, one kidney not functional at all and the other kidney functional only by 20%, 30%. Then also the person may be. But the difference is, if one kidney is there and that kidney is functional by 50%, maybe this person may be asked for dialysis twice a month if he has got or she has got some other ailments in the body. 20% functional hai, other kidney functional nahi hai, then this person may be asked for dialysis once a month. So that depends what is the age of that individual, how much of the kidney is not functional. So we talk about a concept of dialysis. What is dialysis? See, there's a figure in your book also. What is meant by dialysis?
It is like if one kidney is not functional, then this process is going to be a bit slow as compared.
Not slow. Dialysis as it is a very slow process. One kidney से कुछ slow फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. The process, the condition is, if one kidney is not functional for that person, then the process is very, very crucial for that person. मतलब with a lot of risk हो जाता है. If both the kidneys as is, if one kidney is functional for that person and the other kidney is not functional by 20%, 30%, then it is a better state for that person. The person can easily recover. But अगर एक kidney functional नहीं है and the other kidney is functional only 20%, the person has no other choice apart from dialysis. The person has to go for dialysis. Then in that case, it is very dangerous, crucial. Like to say, what is the other alternative? अगर किसी को dialysis नहीं करना है, then what is the other alternative? The person has to go for a transplant. But काफी बार people don't want to go for transplant because पहली बात तो donor मिलना मुश्किल है. And second is काफी बार after the big surgery also that may not be successful. काफी बार बहुत सारे complications होते हैं. So looking and knowing into all the complications and etc., people would generally not take that risk of transplant, would love to carry on with dialysis. So these are various different things. What is the age of that individual? What is the body condition? अगर the person maybe is just 35-year-old, 40-year-old, but then body में और भी बहुत complications है. Then it's a different story. बहुत बार we come across, we read about people who have gone through dialysis, but maybe a 60-year-old individual, but is still recovering. So depends how many, what are the different conditions. Now, why the word hemodialysis? Hemodialysis because we are talking about artificial filtration of the blood. Hemo from the word blood. Hemodialysis that we are talking about, dialysis of the blood but artificially done.
Ma'am, can I ask a question but not related to it? Why does the body get affected by thyroid?
When we are talking about the thyroid, thyroid is a gland in the neck region, if you're aware. This hormone is majorly meant for the entire process of growth, bone development, muscle development, and mental maturation. One of the most important functions that this thyroxine brings about is the overall metabolism of the body. So thyroid plays a very important role in our body. Overall metabolism, basal metabolism, जिसे बोलते हैं. अभी now if this thyroxine T4 majorly, thyroxine अगर कम है secretion, then metabolism of काफी सारे organs disturb हो जाते हैं. A condition where thyroxine secretion is lesser, a condition known as hypothyroidism. तो hypothyroidism में काफी बार ऐसा हो रहा है, the person will start losing weight, shrink, blood pressure low हो जाएगा, and many conditions. I talk about the other way. Thyroxine T4 या तो T3 also in certain cases, T4 majorly I speak. T4 का concentration much more than normal in that individual. Then what could happen? A condition known as hyperthyroidism. तो hyperthyroidism में क्या हो रहा है? This person's metabolic rate is much more than normal. Vital organs are affected, metabolism much faster है. This person will always have a tendency of high blood pressure, hypertension तो common है ही, heart palpitation है. Then always will have a tendency of building up the muscle mass in the body. So becoming obese, muscle mass. So ये वाले major conditions. So muscle mass and all these things difficult to control, but the most important thing to worry is the heart and the kidneys, which immediately start getting affected. Can this be completely treated? No, it can be only regulated, thoda up, thoda down. Absolute treatment, any type of an endocrine gland disorder. Just we will talk about diabetes also in that part of the chapter. A person once has started suffering from diabetes, absolute cure hota hi nahi. Only can be regulated up and down, only that can be done.
So thyroid can't be cured.
No, a person who has already started suffering from thyroidism, absolute cure generally not. Possible that with proper medication, nowadays so many different type of treatments, possible that that person may have obtained a regular level of thyroidism, maybe for 2-3 years, but suddenly it may trigger again. Suddenly it may come down again. So that person has to go through proper medication and proper steps. Taking care specifically is very, very important. Now we will answer some questions now.
So, what are the things that affect the thyroid growth?
What are the things,
What activities or things?
effects, what it brings about? Certain things when we are talking about, to some extent, it can be environmental factors also, bodily changes. Say, a person may not have anything till the age of 20, 25, 30, but suddenly we come across bodily changes that happens. We never know. We are exposed to so many radiations every time. Small changes in our cells happen, the body functions happen. So suddenly a person who was absolutely okay till the age of 45, but by the time he or she goes through till that 40 years, and today it is not even for 40 and 50. We come across children in the age group of 10, 12, 17, 18 suffering from hypothyroidism, and hyperthyroidism even more common. Hyperthyroidism. So improper lifestyle is one of the most important reasons that is common. Improper lifestyle, improper food habit. Today, if your mother gives you roti, dal, and bindi, you will not love that. You would prefer that to a packet of chips. And so, improper food habit is a major reason. Radiations that we are exposed to is a major reason. Today we know that medical treatments are so good, so nice. Kuch bhi chota mota kuch hota hai, go to the doctor is scanning you and this, that, that. But wo scanning में वो scanner that we had gone through, the simple X-ray that we had gone through. Earlier days, for the tooth extraction and all, koi radiation, nothing was there. But today you go to the nice, good clinics, you sit in the AC, and the doctor is taking an X-ray. So now that the X-ray has been done, that radiation you are exposed to, yes, some cells have been affected. We don't understand. Maybe now after 3 years, the person starts suffering from some of the other disorder. So there are variable reasons. सबसे important जो has been understood medically is the improper lifestyle, exposure to radiations, improper food habits.
How can this be prevented?
Difficult for us.
Sorry.
Difficult for our generation, no? And for you all also, it will be difficult. Now that we are constantly saying that don't expose yourself to radiation. One of the most important thing is, one of the most important source of radiation is what? You are constantly exposed to phones. Now with modernization, it is difficult. So that's the reason we have to try striking a balance. वही है. If we don't want to come across all those, then we have to constantly think of striking a balance. Keep ourselves strong, active, slim and trim. So वो सबसे, that is a blessing nowadays. Instead of suffering from hypothyroidism, where you shrink down to a stick, or suffering from hyperthyroidism, when you cannot control, a person cannot control, the person is bloating up, but कुछ नहीं कर सकता. The proper medicines also does not help. So always try, now that you are in this age group, try striking a balance. Chalo, okay? Do some any more doubts? Huh?
Do diabetes have levels like level 1, level 2?
Levels are based on what is the effect on the vital organs. Vital organs में effect क्या है? How the glucose level fluctuates in the body of the person. At 50%, sometimes it is supposed to be or understood to be genetic also. Nowadays, if I talk about one generation back, if I go, maybe now if I think of my grandparents, I think that time they were majorly talking about diabetes. So, हमेशा elderly people को ही होगा. But today you come across the adolescents. 60% of adolescents suffer from diabetes. And today it is majorly the adolescents who are suffering from diabetes. Children are born with diabetes. Children are born with diabetes because in the mother's body, maybe the mother is not showing diabetes. The mother is not diabetic. But when this woman has conceived, what happens? Some changes whenever all these processes happen, a whole lot of hormonal changes, and the child has brought about some changes in the cells. And the newborn baby suffering from this, and this will not get cured all throughout his life, only has to be monitored. तो सारा life उसको monitor करके ही चलना है. Will not be completely cured. These conditions are not completely cured.
Many people around in my neighborhood, they all tell that like if you control eating sugar or taking sugar, your diabetes will be controlled. If your diabetes, you won't get diabetes. Sugar.
Yes, not only sugar. Diabetes, that's a myth. ये common people ऐसे बात करते हैं that शुगर नहीं लेने से डायबिटीज नहीं होगा, तो इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट। शुगर के साथ ऑफ कोर्स शुगर के साथ डायबिटीज का क्या लिंक है? इफ अ पर्सन इज टेकिंग डायरेक्टली सर्टेन स्वीट थिंग्स द शुगर लेवल स्पाइक्स अप, वो तो डेफिनेटली है, बट इज इट दैट अ डायबिटिक पर्सन may absolutely get okay by avoiding sugar? No, because there are some reasons because of which certain hormones are not produced in his body, और वो hormone secretion का और sugar का कुछ link नहीं। So you come across, we also come across people who have suffered from diabetes. Maybe that person doesn't take enough of sugar, but still that person is suffering from diabetes because there is enough mental stress. Because of the mental stress, the hormone is not releasing. Hormone deficiency की वजह से glucose concentration blood में ज़्यादा है. So it is not that only don't take sugar and get rid from diabetes. ऐसा नहीं है, because diabetes is a endocrine problem.
So if the father have diabetes and through genetics when child will
If
have
the father has, not necessarily all the children may have. If the father has, possible none of the children will have. Possible one or two of them will have. So depending on what is the lifestyle of these children, because these endocrine concepts that I am talking about, the hormone concept that I am talking about, hormone secretion हमारा body physiology पे depend करता है. Environmental effect है, but that is little bit, not that much. So maybe the father had diabetes, either that person has gained it from heredity, और maybe बहुत stressful था, lack of exercise था, improper food habit था, बहुत सारे reasons. But maybe the children are aware. काफी बार if the children are not aware also, the children may not suffer. जरूरी नहीं है if the parents are suffering, children will also suffer. But sometimes it is seen. Yes, father का भी है, children, all of them are suffering. ऐसा नहीं.
so there is a link with sugar
No,
and
no. Sugar नहीं लेने से ना today say suppose for you and me or any other person here. Can I say that if we absolutely don't take sugar, nobody will suffer from diabetes? No, it is not like that. I have come across so many people who have been cautious about sugar for so many years, but still now they are suffering. एक बार वो एंडोक्राइन प्रॉब्लम जब बॉडी में होती है, तुम शुगर लो ना लो, उससे डायबिटीज का कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, बट यस लाइफस्टाइल मैटर्स अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सरसाइज, अ लॉट ऑफ फिजिकल एक्टिविटी, lot of exercise, proper food, proper sleep, this is must. Then we can keep ourselves free from so many different type of conditions. Okay, is this concept clear?
Yes,
Dialysis, look into that figure. I want all of you to read that small paragraph, and once you are done, we will go to questions. Fast, all of you look into that paragraph on dialysis and read that paragraph. By the time those of you did not finish the diagram, finish up the diagram also, and then we'll move on to the questions. We are almost done with this chapter. Few questions from this chapter only left. I'll give you 5 minutes fast, read this part of the paragraph, dialysis, and then we start with questions. All of you, read hemodialysis. Based on this diagram also, you will get questions. Talking. कहाँ टेक्स्ट कहाँ है? What I asked you to read? dialysis. Got it? Ah, what I asked you to do. वॉल्यूम 1 किसके पास है?
There are many nephrons like.
Can I?
There are many nephrons in the kidneys like.
I told you, no, there are millions of such type of nephrons in our kidney. Millions of them.
So the blood goes to the each nephron.
Each of these. The artery, it is not only one renal artery we are talking about, there are so many of them. The renal artery will divide into so many afferent arterioles. And the afferent arterioles supplying blood to the nephrons. So we are studying only one such nephron. What happens to that one such nephron? One nephron, what happens to it?
One kidney stops working all of the nephrons of
one kidney
stops functioning.
One kidney stops functioning, meaning the nephrons are not functioning.
So all the
progressively. Now, one kidney will not stop functioning all of a sudden. The degeneration of an organ is never all of a sudden. It is part by part, part by part, part by part. So if I come across, if a person is, तुम लोगों को exciting talks अगर हो गया तो 2 लाइन पढ़ लो. So now, if somebody is complaining or if a person has been diagnosed with a non-functional organ, that must have happened almost 10 years back for that person, 5 years back for that person. If you suddenly nahi hoga, there's millions of nephrons will not suddenly one fine day stop working. ये धीरे-धीरे that happens.
the kidneys function.
20% मतलब एक chunk of neurons are not functioning. It's always like that. For all the parts of the body, the liver, the stomach, the entire organ, when the doctors say that this organ is not functional, suddenly one fine day the organ doesn't stop functioning. It's always part by part. Toshita, no your name? कौन सा बायोलॉजी चल रहा है तुम लोगों के बीच? Read means look into those words and try to absorb into the brain. That is what I know the definition of reading.
Same osmotic pressure as well, except that it is divided by natural space.
What is a dialyzing fluid? Dialyzing fluid is a fluid which is used surrounding the entire dialyzing unit. I'll explain.
किडनी खराब कैसे होता है?
पूरा स्टोरी के बाद ये क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं.
Any specific element जिससे ज़्यादा हैम्पर होता है?
What I told you the concept of kidney stones. I told you the concept of diabetes. So इस तरह के जब बहुत सारे irregularities किडनी में होता रहेगा for a number of years, then possible है few nephrons have stopped their function. Possible है few more nephrons have stopped their function. Body में certain hormones produce नहीं हो रहा है which can regulate the absorption. ये जो ADH मैंने बताया है, if a person's ADH secretion is very low, so the absorption हो ही नहीं रहा है body में. So nephrons are not functioning properly. Kidney stones deposit हो रहा है, uric acid stone है. So all these conditions धीरे-धीरे will make the nephrons, if not treated properly, this will make the nephrons non-functional. And you progressively, the number of nephrons will keep on becoming dead, non-functional. Then at one particular period of time, one kidney may be considered to be non-functional. So when we say a kidney is non-functional, मतलब millions of nephrons एक साथ में तो non-functional नहीं होगा, over a period of time. Stone deposition भी एक sudden one day में नहीं होगा, that also will happen over a period of time. So if these changes accumulate over a period of time, and if this person has not gone for any treatment, then possible that the kidneys will start showing irregular function known as kidney failure. और भी काफी सारे reasons है for the reasons of kidney failure. Is it possible a person's kidney may fail over just a period of 6 months and 8 months? Yes. If I talk about a cancer patient. A cancer patient or a patient of a disease or a person who is consuming high doses of medicine. Possible है. High doses of medicine is affecting some of the other parts of the body, and the kidney tubules are affected, kidney nephrons are affected. Then the possible a person may start showing failure of the kidney just in 3 months. Cancer treatment में जो radiations and therapy and strong chemicals होता है, that may affect the vital organs in just a period of couple of months.
So removing cancer can make more cancer. So chemotherapy use करके जो radiation जाता है उससे अलग issues भी तो होते हैं ना.
Can it be completely removed? It can be. Nowadays it is possible. But depending on which part of the body it is. If it is in a part of the body which can be immediately diagnosed and cut out, then yes, there are so many patients who had survived, who had suffered, and today out of it and survived. So, but there are people today also with this medical treatment they could not get rid of it. Because which part of the body may fail? Is that part of the body? Can that part of the body be cut out, thrown out? No. Then chances of recovery are less. Like lung cancer and also. How do
Artificial kidneys work.
artificial kidneys the same as transplant?
Then why is it called artificial kidneys?
Artificial kidneys, when we are talking about artificial kidneys and hemodialysis and transplant, is almost the same thing. When the body organ is not, it is not your own organ. It is,
but it could be called secondary kidney also.
no. Artificial kidney. See, hemodialysis is also a concept of artificial kidney. Hemodialysis is also a concept of artificial kidney. Q. Because the kidneys are doing the job of filtration of the blood. And here, hemodialysis is doing the job of filtration of the blood artificially. So, hemodialysis is also known as artificial kidney. So, hemodialysis में क्या हो रहा है? The entire concept is, if you see in that figure, can you see that there is a series of tubes? Look at that figure. I'll talk a little bit more on that. Look at that figure. The dialyzing unit. Can you see the dialyzing unit there? So in that dialyzing unit, there's a series of tubes. Can you see a series of tubes are there? So into those tubes, the blood from the patient's body has to be drawn. And कहाँ से लिया जाता है blood? Generally from the veins of the arms. Generally from the veins of the arms, blood लिया जाता है. Radial artery, मतलब generally from the veins of the arms, blood लिया जाता है. So if you check that figure, the unit is something like this. इसको dialyzing unit बोला जाता है. So if I understand that this is the dialyzing unit, what will this dialyzing unit generally consist of? There will be an inlet for the blood vessel, something like this. There will be an inlet for the blood vessel, something like this. Let me just say this. There will be an inlet of the blood vessel like this. What is then drawn in this blood vessel? What is drawn into this blood vessel? Which is this artery I am talking about, the radial artery from the arm. The blood from the radial artery from the arm is taken. The blood flows here. These are all artificial tubes. What is surrounding the tube? A fluid has to be taken. Which all these three, अब तुम तीनों का बाहर जाने का टाइम आ रहा है. All these three will go out of the class. 1 hour बाहर रहो. Non-stop you three are talking. Now surrounding the tube. Now I just now mentioned what is this tube made up of. It is made up of artificial membranes. और ये जो membrane का texture है is same like the DCT. The blood is passing through these tubes. Surrounding these tubes, if you see in that figure also, surrounding the tube एक solution होता है. What is this solution known as? The dialyzing solution. And this dialyzing solution is basically the sodium chloride or the dextrose जो हमारे body के साथ easily can blend. The sodium chloride हमारे body में sodium chloride होता ही है, glucose होता ही है. So either dextrose or sodium chloride is the common solution that has been taken. I said it is DCT. So DCT में क्या होता है? What did we come across?
Acid.
So in this case, when we are talking about the blood capillaries, so this fluid is the DCT, just understand, and this is the fluid, the blood. So what is the blood supposed to throw away? Urea. What is the blood supposed to throw away? Uric acid. So the blood is constantly giving away the urea and the uric acid. The blood moves through this tube, and from this tube, what is diffusing out? What is diffusing out is a whole lot of urea. A whole lot of urea is diffusing out. Potassium ions, salts, potassium ions, urea, uric acid, majorly you are to write. Now that this fluid I am talking about, what is the name of this fluid I told you? The dialyzing solution. So this dialyzing solution is constantly becoming rich with urea, uric acid, no? The dialyzing solution पहले तो simple glucose या simple sodium chloride solution था. And we had inserted the solution. We had started with the process of dialysis जो 6-8 घंटे तक चलता है. But in that 6 hours, 8 hours, can we use the same dialyzing solution? No. क्योंकि I just now said that this dialyzing solution is almost acting like the DCT, the fluid in the DCT. So ये blood में से urea coming out, getting dissolved in the dialyzing solution. अब जैसे ही यूरिया का concentration dialyzing solution में ज़्यादा होता रहेगा, will it not get back into the tube? It will. So इसीलिए dialyzing solution from time to time change किया जाता है. The entire process, if it is running for 8 hours, every 2 hours this dialyzing solution will be replaced. क्यों? क्योंकि concentration of urea, uric acid dialyzing solution में हमेशा कम रहना चाहिए than the tube. Then only urea, uric acid will come out. जैसे ही यहाँ पे concentration ज़्यादा हो गया, it will start entering the blood again. So ये process जैसे ही हो रहा है, it will again go back to the blood of the arms. Again it will be going back. So the blood runs in this set of tubes very slowly. The blood runs in this set of tubes, and the process of filtration, artificial process of filtration of blood is happening, and again it will be drawn back into the body by the way of the arms again, the radial vein again. So when we are talking about this, this is also an artificial process. Now take some question. Just try answering.
The amount of filtrate is within 180 liters.
The amount of
Filtrate is within
Initial filtrate in the kidneys is about 180 liters. But you have written 160.
earlier I wrote 180. It is 160 to 180. 160 to 180 होता है. So you can think of any number between 160 to 180. Depends individual to individual. Age, yeah, but today I may drink 1 liter, tomorrow I may drink 1.5 liter water. So So depends how much of the water intake, not age majorly a factor. So this varies 160 to 180.
What is the dialyzing solution?
This is what I mentioned just now. No? Dialyzing solution जो ट्यूब के external medium में एक fluid लिया जाता है. The entire thing is almost like a big bag. एक big bag जैसे रहता है. So a patient who is going through the dialyzing solution एक boat के जैसा रहता है. That entire unit is like a boat. The patient is lying down and उनके body से blood लेके it's all running in those set of एक बड़ा सा bag जैसे boat जैसे रहता है. And then the blood is moving. As the blood is moving, what is the blood filtering here? यहाँ पे majorly ये process हो रहा है. यहाँ पे majorly ये process हो रहा है, where the blood is just giving away the urea, uric acid, potassium, and यहाँ पे जहाँ पे dissolve हो रहा है this liquid surrounding the tube, dialyzing solution. तो dialyzing solution majorly dextrose मतलब sugar या sodium chloride, simple saline जिसे कहते हैं, sodium saline, sodium chloride solution ही लिया जाता है. Check, there are some questions. Once you try answering those, you'll be a bit more clear about this concept. Try taking these questions and start them as homework. We start karo, whatever you don't finish, we'll complete those as homework. Go to page number 169. All this will remain as homework because now you don't have time to finish all these. Page 169, question number 2. Page 169, question number 2. Go to the next. 170.
Question number
Case 2. Case 2, correct. That is question number 12. 12, case 2. 12, 13.
Page 170.
No, I'm sorry. 12 is for the phloem use. Case 2, question 13. Case 2, question 13. Go to 170. Number 14, 15 and 16. 14, 15, 16. 14, 15, 16. Go to the next. Next page now. 19B. 19B, write down the question in the notebook. Next class I will give you the 3 processes little bit, especially for a 3-mark answer, how much you should write, but some of the points you should write that question there in your notebook. Describe in brief how urine is produced in the human body. There you have to explain ultrafiltration, reabsorption and secretion, all the 3. Question लिख के रखो now. I will give you the next class. Now let me just take the rest of the questions that you have to do. That is question number 19B. Page 179 का 19B. Just लिख के रखो. And remind me next class you have to start from there. 171, 19B.
179.
171, 19B. 171, 19B. So that question all of you will write in your notebook, write and keep. We will start from there the next class. Go to page 172. Go to page 172.
Now English is counting what?
35. 35. A and B. Now see there, name the processes by which plants. Okay, let us just discuss little bit here, but will you stop? Whose book is that? Take it back. Such disturbing these batches. Why girls you don't have your book? If you don't have your book, then why constantly you are calling for his book? तो बाद में लिखना 35 BC there, if you look into your textbook, the last paragraph of that chapter is about the process of excretion in plants. Now it's a very small concept given there. What are we talking about the concept of excretion in plants? Excretion in plants, talking about here, I would say that if it is a plant, what are some of the ways by which it gives away the waste substances? Number one, it gives away oxygen by the way of the stomata. Now, oxygen is also considered as a waste product. But generally we understand oxygen has got a great significance because it helps in the process of respiration of animals. But talking about the waste substances, what are some of the waste substances the plants give away? By the way of the stomata, excess water in the form of water vapor, oxygen, carbon dioxide by the process of respiration. Plant cells also undergo respiration. So if the plant cells are undergoing respiration and carbon dioxide they produce, then this carbon dioxide also has to be released by the way of the stomata only. So this 3. Number 4. Plants are constantly producing toxic chemical compounds also. The cells are producing toxic chemical compounds. Some common toxic chemical compounds are calcium oxalate, calcium phosphate, calcium oxalate. Now this calcium oxalate that we talk about is always present as deposits on the surface of the peel of a fruit, on the surface of a leaf. So how would the plant get rid of all these toxic chemical substances? Because on the surface of the leaf it is always deposited. So shedding of the leaf is also one way of getting rid of the waste substances. And this waste substances that is in the form of calcium oxalate that I said, this can also be released by shedding of the leaves, the shedding of the flower, the detaching of the flower from the plant. So that is also one way. Number 4, the plants produces variety of other type of chemical components in the form of latex, gums, resin, gum, latex. What are resins and gum? Some of the plants release those whitish sticky substances, adhesive substances. Fruits. So these are also certain type of plants you will come across, the leaf and the stalk. They release whitish substances. That is also considered to be some waste substances for the plant. The words that you have to write is the resin, the latex, the gums. These are also waste substances. So what are some of the words, waste substances? Water you have to mention, carbon dioxide you have to mention, oxygen also is being mentioned, latex, gums, and the last one is tannins. What are tannins? Tannins are waste substances, but colored substances. Tannins are also certain type of chemical pigments which are released by the plant cells used for coloring the fabrics. If anybody is aware, people who eat palm, they use some coloring substances, no? Katha, that is also waste substances, excretory substances from the plants. So all these words, just read that last paragraph. We'll complete the questions, then it's yours. Whose book I took? Yes, uric acid. The lizards and the birds, they release more of uric acid.